Welcome to a wonderful day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. I'm recording this on a Sunday morning, generally quite peaceful. Just missed the sound of geese honking overhead as we move into the fall season here in the Cleveland, Ohio, USA area. Welcome wherever you're hailing from, whenever you're watching this. Pleasure to go on this journey with you of self-exploration. So, in the course of its writings. One of the ultimate ideas of yoga, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is to become yourself and be yourself because you were manifested for a purpose. And living with that purpose ultimately brings you self-satisfaction and a death that can be good as your life was. So how do we come to terms with who we are? Because as I've mentioned before, and as we'll delve into today as we continue our exploration of chapter 9, who we really are is often lost under the layers of who other people think we are or who society expects us to be. And we're going to look at just the first part of verse 9:17, and I'm going from my translation in the Embracing the Song of Your Soul. But any Gita translation you want, even if you translate it yourself, because then the Gita is meant to speak to each of us directly. And when you learn to translate it for yourself, you get this wonderful message. But it takes a lot of time. And if you don't want to go there, here's my take on the translation. It's a more poetic version. It's in the original Sanskrit rhythm. So I'm just going to read the first 2 lines of verse 9:17. The cosmic father, mother, and grandsire and provider am I. That'll give us enough to think about. Half of a verse, and that's Krishna talking to Arjun. Krishna is somebody who's realized who he truly is, and Arjun is still flailing around in the material world going, who am I? Why is life doing this to me? Why? And Krishna's like, well, here's why. But one of the things Krishna does repeatedly is try to explain who he understands himself to be. Not just this limited, material, time-bound self, but the timeless core of his very being. Whoop, there we go. Krishna. By the way, one of the nicknames Arjuna has for Krishna during the Bhagavad Gita is guy with a great head of hair. So striving to emulate you there, Krishna. But anyway, as we're looking to find out who we are, 2 of the biggest labelings by others and by society that we have to learn to overcome have to do with our gender and our age. So if we look, maybe age will be a little less provocative. Let's start with age. So Krishna talks about being the cosmic father, mother, and then grandsire. And different cultures treat their aged very differently. And here in the United States, I have to say that now, we're treated as invisible, disposable, and like oftentimes we have nothing left to give. Why? You don't turn to your elders for wisdom anymore. You go on. Oh, goodness. This is, as a reference librarian, I say this with some pain in my heart. You go on Wikipedia or any web browser, type in the search engine bar and just pick, there's the thing that comes up first. And it's, my goodness gracious. Instead of lived experience, we go for that intellectual, condensed, easily gotten, rather than maybe talk to somebody who's gone through the painful reality of different experiences. And that's one thing I think we really one way we label ourselves that limits us or other people limit us. When we're young, up until we get to a certain age, we're told you're too young, you don't understand this and that, you don't know what you want, you don't know what's best for you. And then all of a sudden the switch flips. All of a sudden the switch flips and you're too old. So you go from being too young to too old, and it's like, where was that perfect age? We are rarely taught to accept our age. And so when we look at ourselves, often age, a label that's put on ourselves, by society is something that causes us pain and causes us misidentification. And then the other really big one has to do with gender. In the first line of verse 17, Krishna labels himself the cosmic father, the cosmic mother. These are meant to not necessarily represent absolute expressions of physiological genitalia or anything like that. It's just two ends of the same experience as far as gender identity. And then there's stuff in between. He talks about that in other verses about there are these two ends and there are things in between. But we're often kind of, by labeling, either by others or ourselves, we try to make ourselves fit our culture's or our society's perfect role of what is masculine, what is feminine. And that's often to our detriment. I kind of see this playing out in our current presidential election here in the States. We have a white man and a black woman, and those are pretty polar opposites here in this country. And some of the remarks made about each are based on gender. And having worked with people of different genders, I think one of the key things we all want as humans, age, gender, any other label aside, we want to be seen for who we are. We want to be seen. And this is what Krishna is trying to do for Arjuna, see him for who he really is. And that's why Arjuna opens up to him and trusts him. But we have to turn that lens on ourselves. If we can't see ourselves as we truly are outside these labels, then when we look at others, we're going to default to there's that old guy or there's that young woman or whatever label. And that's the same view we'll take to ourselves. I encourage you today to really, as we contemplate, notice who you are beyond those labels if you can. And then today, can you look at other people beyond those labels, those easy labels that we've been taught about since day one? The first thing coming out of the womb in this culture is boy or girl, or even before now. Can we do that? Let's find out. The balance pose we start with, we're meant to balance our masculine and feminine side, masculine represented by the right side of the body and feminine by the left side. And if they don't work together, we fall down. Maybe there's a lesson in that. I'm going to do it near me hammock. Hi, hammock. Switch side. Wonderful. Let's come back. So, yeah, during our contemplation, can you identify who you are? If you had no adjectives for age or gender to describe yourself, who would you be? That's something to bend your brain around for 5 minutes. Here we go. That lovely sound marks the end of our meditative practice. And as you come back, I'll let you know that today's practice is dedicated to Mary, to Harry, and to Sonia, who I'm very much appreciating for being in my life. And I'm appreciating you. If you ever want to go more in depth in these topics, remember we have a series of Bhagavad Gita classes starting up very soon. You can see the link below. I mean, if just this few minutes a day helps, think what a longer session might be if you choose to spend your time investing it in that way. Be fun to see you no matter how I see you. And we'll see each other soon, I hope. Until then.